Hello everyone, it's Michael, and today we're going to be doing SmartSuite library training for new users. So we'd like to welcome you all on board. If you are converting from another library system to SmartSuite library, or you just happen to be new in a library that already has SmartSuite, and so you want to know how do I do things. So we're going to assume that you've had a login and that you have a librarian authorized login. So in other words, you're an administrator on the system. There are certain things that you need to make sure that you are aware of and that your system is set up to be able to use the system. So we're going to start with Patron. Obviously, if you are a patron on the system, then there are certain things you can and cannot do based on the level of access you have. So we're going to start with Patron Parameters, okay? All the things that you need to be aware of to be able to manage the system, okay? Now, as far as Patron Parameters go, to be able to go into any of the parameters modules, what you need to do is you need to click on the menu button. You need to come down to configuration and then the authority file. And this is where you can do changes to anything on the system in the authority files. Now, the first authority file we're going to deal with is the easiest of all of them, and that is the homerooms authority file. Now, the reason why we want to do the homerooms authority file, because there's only one field, and that is the name of the homeroom. That's it. Why would you need to put that in? Because you might want to do overdues by homeroom. That's the only purpose it serves. You might want to do a patron report by homeroom. You might want to print library cards by homeroom. Okay, so we're going to go down to the authority file, and when the authority file module comes up, this is what it looks like. It starts off at audience only because it's alphabetical, but if you click here, you'll get a whole list of alphabetically all the different authority entries, and you can go into each one of these authority files and look at them for yourself. Okay, we're going to deal with homeroom. When you click on the homeroom, you'll get a list of your homerooms in there, or it'll be blank. And if you wanted to create a homeroom, you can click on there and go Mike's class group, and that's your homeroom. And you just go plus, and when you click that, it's added it to there. So if you scroll down here, okay, you can see there's all the homerooms, and you've got Mike's class group, and that's all there is to it. If it's a wrong spelling or you want to change it and name it something else, just click the pencil. That's the edit button, okay? And it allows you to go ahead and change it. If you change anything, you just need to hit save. If you don't want it, just click delete. That's it. Don't worry about the global change. You don't need to do any of that. And now Mike's homeroom has gone. And that's how you can add the homerooms to the system, so that when you start adding patrons and you want to allocate a patron into a particular homeroom, it's in the list. This is the list that'll come up, and you can choose a homeroom from there. Okay, and that's all there is to the homeroom authority file. The next thing we're going to deal with is the classification authority file. The classification authority file in the patron screen is very, very, very important, and the reason for that is because it is one of the parameters that deals with the patron's borrowing limits, okay? And obviously, you can run a patron report based on any one of these parameters. So that is a given, but you need to be able to set them up. So let's go ahead and create a classification for the year 12s as an example, or in our case, because I've already got a year 12, I'm going to create a classification for my year 15s if I happen to have one. So I'll go into the menu, I'll go down to the configuration, I'll go down to the authority file, and in the authority file, remember it's alphabetical, and I want class grade. When I click on class grade, there's all my class grades. You can see I've got all my class grades there. So let's do an authority file. Let's have a look. We haven't got a year 2s. Okay, yep, we haven't got a year 2. So we're going to create a class grade for year 2. So I'm a P-12 school, so I want, and I'm just going to call it 2, and I'll go plus. Okay, and there it is. I've now got a year 2 authority file in there. Okay, however, when I click on the pencil to have a look at it, you will discover that there's a whole bunch of other information you need to put in here. Let me go through each one of these one by one. The security, what is that? Okay, my recommendation is make sure that the security number corresponds with the year level. So if I go, that's 2. Okay, if it was a year 12, it'll be 12. If it was a year 9, it'll be 9. If it's a year 10, it'll be 10. If it's a year 1, it'll be 1. If it's a prep, it'll be 0. Why? If I catalog a book and it's senior fiction and it's for my year 10s and above, in the catalog screen, I can say that this book is for a year 10. And of course, if a year 10 comes to borrow it and they've got 10 here, they will be able to borrow it. If a year 11 comes to borrow it, because it's above year 10, so that means anyone from year 10 and above can borrow that book. If it was a year 12, anyone from year 12 and above can borrow that book. Okay? So that's why we have that security number. Now, if you happen to use digital content and you put a video on there, that's not appropriate for the year 9s and below, but it's okay for your year 10s. So if this was a year 10 student and the security was year 10, the video will play. If you're year 12, it'll play. If it's 11, it'll play. If it's a 9 and the security is 10, it will not play. And it'll give them an error message to say that this is above your security limit. But one of the big advantages is that it won't even show on their OPAC. When a year 9 looks at a year 10 video, it won't show. Okay, from a book point of view, if it was a senior fiction and they came to borrow it and it was out of their security range, it won't allow them to borrow it. However, at circulation desk, it'll say this book is out of their security range. Do you still want to go ahead and loan it? And you have an opportunity to override that. So that's what the security code is all about. The final borrowing date. That's the date when you're going to be doing a stock take and you want all the books back in the library. So the school closes on the 20th of December, but I'll say, no, I'm going to do a stock take on the 7th. So I'm not going to allow anyone to borrow any books after the 7th of December. That's when I want them all back. So that's what the final borrowing date is. Now, what will happen is, if you say they can borrow books for 14 days and they come on the 5th of December to borrow it, and it works out 14 days, and then it'll say, yes, but let me have a look at the final borrowing date. It's going to exceed the 7th of December, so therefore I'm going to cut it back and make sure that I override the 14-day calculation and make sure it's the 7th. That's what the final borrowing date is. The expiry date. My recommendation of the expiry date is pick a date when you know you're going to be leaving school and never coming back to teaching again. And so make it 2080 as an example. Okay? And you never have to worry about that date. It's just that the system needs it. So you have to put a date in there. No use putting the 7th of December in there. That means every year you got to go through every year level and you got to change that. Not a good way to go. So just make that, and then that's something that you never have to worry about. Why do we put it there? We put it there for schools that have year 12 students. So I know for a fact that year 12 students, they finish their schooling on the 17th of July. They're never coming back after the 17th of July. Okay, so what I would do is I'd say 17th of July and 2020, because that's the year I'm in. Okay, and I'll say I do not want any year 12, if this was a year 12 student, I don't want any year 12 borrowing books after the 17th of December. So when they come to borrow, it'll say this is expired, don't lend it to him. That's what that's all about. Okay, but if it's not year 12, as I said, make it 40 years from now, and then you don't have to worry about that. Loan limit, how many books they can borrow? They can borrow 6 books. How long can they borrow it for? They can borrow it for 14 days. Can they renew? Yes, they can renew the book twice. And if they renew it on the OPAC screen that they have access to, they can renew it for 7 days. Okay. Can they reserve? So that if you put in a reserve limit, and you can say they can only reserve 3 books, you don't have to worry about just reserving and never picking them up. Maximum 3 reserves. Multiple copies of the books, have it turned off for everybody. The only time you'll put multiple copies in there is if it's a teacher. If it's a teacher, then the class grade will be teacher, but the security for teachers should be 50. It's an arbitrary number. Okay, but what it means is they can borrow material from prep, past year 12, and teachers, which is 50. If you're an administrator, a library staff member should not have 50. Library staff member should have 999. So that means that if you've bought some books that you don't even want to lend out to teachers, because you've only bought one copy of it and you just paid $300, and I'm happy for you to look at it while you're in the library, but sorry, you can't take it home. So you'll make that security of maybe 100, and because teachers are 50, they will not be able to borrow it. But as a library staff or as an administrator or principal, if you said that they are 999, they'll be able to borrow it. Okay. As far as TV for education goes, a teacher might put a video like Game of Thrones on because he thinks, oh, this is a great Netflix thing. Everything on TV for education is free of ads. So I'm going to go and use TV for education as my private Netflix. So if they do it, they will have a security clearance of 50. You can go and change it to 999. So even they can't access Game of Thrones that they've added on there until you go and have a chat to the individual teacher, or you chat to their department head and say, look, I want to show you what Joshua is putting on the system. Can you please have a chat to him and I'll delete it, or I'll talk to Joshua. And if he has a legitimate reason for having it, then what you can go ahead and you can change it from 999 back to 50 so that the teacher can have access. So that's what the security code is. Multiple copies, can they borrow multiple copies? Now, let's say for argument's sake that this is a teacher and they can borrow 1,000 books, and they can borrow it for 365 days. Now, what's going to happen when you go to borrow that, if the books that they're borrowing are 14-day books, it'll automatically cut it down to 14 days. It will not give it to them for 365 because the system security by default says go for the lowest limit. So if they're borrowing, even though they're a 365-day person, they come to borrow books, they get it. Fiction books, 14 days. Non-fiction books, 7 days. That's what's going to happen unless you say the patron parameter overrides the book parameter. So if you put a tick in there for your teachers, then they will be able to have it for 365 days. That's what that's all about. And when you change any of that, just go save. And that's it. It's flat, it's fast, super fast. When you go save, it's done. Now let's say I had 1,000 students in my year 2s and I've just gone and changed all these parameters and I click save. Now if you look at it fast enough, it'll flash faster than you can blink your eye. Okay, there it is, there it is, there it is. Every time you hit save, all 1,000 students that are in year 2 will have all these new parameters applied to them. That's how fast it is. Okay, and that's all there is to setting class grades. Okay, now one class grade that you should have in here is left in 2020. Another one next year will be left in you'll change it to left in 2021 and so forth. And the reason for that is, so you should have one of those, and the reason for that is because at the end of the year, what you want to do is you want to do a global change, and you can go into menu, go into global change and move all your year 12 students to left in 2020. You just do that, and then when you go and import all your new patrons, they'll all override all your year levels. You don't have to worry about your 12 because they're gone. They left in 2020. Okay, and that's all there is to classification. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a patron. How do I add a patron? Or how do I change a patron? Or how do I delete a patron? That's easy. You click here, you go to patron, and you go to patron management. When you go to patron management, okay, there's your patron record. You've got all these other parameters here. You don't need to worry about most of them because we're only interested in the basic information. Now let me go, and I can go and find the patron. So I can go find, and I can go S or SMI, and whatever you put in, that's what it's going to give you. So let's go to John Smith. Okay, so there's John Smith in there, and let me find another one. Go find, and I just go S, just S. Okay, and that's everyone that starts with F. So that's Mike Smith. Okay. Now I can go and say find, and I want SMITH. That's all. And that'll give you all your SMITH people. Okay. Now, my barcode for this person is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's my barcode for this particular person. Okay. And I'll go save. If I wanted to create a new record, I'll just go new. It'll give me a blank field. I need to put in a barcode. I need to put in a first name, a surname. I don't need the email address. I don't even need to worry about that, because remember, we set the security based on their classification. So if I go in here and I'll say, you know what, that's a year 10 patron. Okay, it's a year, and if I go save, what's going to happen is whatever the security for year 10 will be up here. Okay, now my homeroom is not a year 11, so my homeroom is a 10, so I can go and choose my homeroom, and then I just go save, and there it is. But it's not this person is not a teacher, so I can get rid of the teacher role, click outside of there. Okay, then when I click back in here again, it'll load all of that, and by default the patron will always be a student patron. Okay, and now I can go save. All right, now let me explain. This patron can log in with a barcode of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and when they log in with that, it'll ask them for a password. Now, to be able to enter a password to log in, you should have given everyone a password, but this is a new patron, so I just want to give him her a password. So I just go change password, and in here the password is my recommendation. Give them all the same password, PASSWORD and PASSWORD password, and I'll go change password. So now Mary Smith has the password of password. But what you can do is you can say change password on next login. So if I turn that on and go save, so I can say to Mary, Mary, I know you forgot your password, but I've reset it to password. And of course, because you said change password on next login, when Mary logs in with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, what it's going to do is it's going to present a screen that says, hi Mary, thank you for logging in. You've used your default password. You now have to give yourself a password, and ask them for another password. Now, obviously, if they forget it, you can just go change password, change it, and then go change password on next login. And that's how you can change anyone's password. Can you see their password? Never. Nobody can see your password, not you, not even us at Functional Solutions. Okay, now you can ask us to set all the passwords for year 10 as password 10, all the passwords for year 2s as password 2, and so forth and so on. So we can globally set them, and we can set it so that they have to change their password on next login. Or you can say no, everyone's password is going to be, our school's called St. John's, so the password is St. John, and please don't ask them to change the password. Everyone's going to have the same password. We can do that too. So you decide on your password philosophy and how you're going to set it, what your parameter is going to be, and tell us, and we can do it for you. Take us 2 seconds, okay? And I'll show you how to do it by creating going in here and going to a mailbox and creating an article, okay? So that's how that's done. Now, the thing is, I don't want them to necessarily log in that way. I want them to log in with their email, which is msmith at, okay, so it has to be an educational email. So you can create, and you can import all that information in from your admin system, and it's very easy to import that. So now what happens is this person can log in with this or this. They can use either to log in, okay? What we can also do is you can say to us, can you take their first name, okay, put it into their username, put a full stop, and then put in their surname after that, and then save it. Now we can generate a username based on their first name dot surname or whatever you want, okay? And now this person can log in with that barcode or with that username or with that email address. They can use either of the 3, okay? And then of course the password is in there. We said that they need to change their password on next login, and that's how it would work, okay? Not a problem, just go save. Now, if you want to import, my recommendation is, that's a little bit advanced, but very easy to do. Click on here, go down to Patron, and go down to Smart Patron Import. And that will allow you to import it. Watch that tutorial, it's really easy. Or go into Google, go to YouTube and go Smart Library and have a look. So let me just show you. So in here, I'll go to www.youtube.com.au, okay, and in here do a search for SmartSuite library, okay, and you'll be amazed at all the resources. And you can do a search for the import, Patron import, and you'll be surprised the assistance that we give you to do all the things that you need to do. Okay, so you can do it that way, or alternatively you can click on the menu, click on the mailbox, okay, and say I want to create a support ticket. So click on support ticket, create a ticket, and I need help with Patron import, and you go, can you please ring me on XYZ phone number at 3:30 next Thursday to walk me through doing a Patron import. Okay, and you just hit that rocket and we'll get a ticket, and then we will set that all up. And you can ask for help, and you can ask for video help, you can ask for documentation help, you can ask for walk you through one-on-one. We will do whatever we need to do. We'll bend over backwards to help you with whatever it is that you want to do to be able to make sure that SmartSuite just runs. Okay, now very, very important in your patron management, okay, whenever you put a patron in, is understanding the role. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's say that Michael Fernandez was a patron on the system. By default, he'll be given the role of a student, but you can go, no, he's not a student. What are the roles? So basically, generally, you will have that this particular person on the system, okay, his role is a teacher. By giving him a teacher role, what will happen is he will get TV for education, so he can build content and add content to your collection. That's the big advantage of it. Okay, and that's the role of the teacher. But have a look at all the other roles that we offer. So as an example, okay, you might have Joshua who comes in twice a week, does all your cataloging for you. You can give him just a cataloging role. You might have Mary who decided that she's retired, but you know what, I'm bored. I'm going to go to the school and I'm going to give 2 hours a day in the evening on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday on their circulation desk. So you can just give them a circulation desk loan. Or Marianne has joined the school. She's a very highly qualified librarian. So you can give her a role of a librarian. She'll have all the librarian functionality. Okay. Or you might want to create a user called Circ and Circ1, and they are self-circulation for your primary school. So you just create a user called Circ and a user called Circ1 and give it the role of self-circulation. Please remember that whenever you logged in, you can't have Circ and have 5 circulation machines using Circ, because the system will detect, oh, I've got Circ logged in here and here and here and here. Oh, I must be being controlled or hacked or whatever, so it will log you out and it'll cause unpredictable things. So the same thing, do not give your login to another librarian. If you've got another librarian, create a login just for them with the appropriate roles so that we can keep track and manage every individual person and give you a report on their activities as well. So the role is very important. Okay, and that's all there is to patron management. Now, of course, we're going to go to cataloging. And just like we had to put in homerooms and classifications and roles for a particular patron, so in the authority file, we have to create certain authority entries before we can even begin to use catalog. Okay, and we go to the same spot. So we click on menu, we go down to configuration, we go to authority file editor. And in the authority file editor, it's alphabetical. First thing you should do is put in all the different kinds of media that you want to be able to classify your content. So just go into media. Okay, there's all my media. And you go, I want senior fiction, I want junior fiction, I want whatever. So you can just put the description and click that button. Exactly the same. So you need to put all your medias in. Now, all your books are going to be stored in different locations, like the library, the class, the C1 classroom, the staff room. So you need to put all your locations in. Click here, and if you go down here, so you can see location, okay? And you need to put all your locations in. Once you put all your locations in, so within the library, as an example, you might have fiction, non-fiction, big book, picture books. So you need to put in all your sub-locations. So you need to come in here and you need to put in all your sub-locations. Once you've done all of that, you then have to borrow a book which will tell you what type of loan type that book is. So it's an overnight loan, it's a weekly loan, it's a fortnightly loan, it's a term loan. So you need to create a loan type. So there's your loan type. And in your loan type, you have a daily. So these are just names. And in each one of those, you go in there and you can say a fortnightly loan is a 14-day period and the final borrowing date is the end of the year. Okay, because if it was a term loan, the final borrowing date is the date for the end of that term. So you need to put in the loan period and the final borrowing date. And you just click save. Okay, so you set up all your loan types. Once you've done all your loan types, then you need to also make sure you put in your renewal types. So put in your renewal types, and again, you put it in there, and then once they're in there, you then have to put in the final borrowing date for your term loan and your renewal period. Okay, so you need to put that in. The last thing that you would do so that you can start cataloging is you need to put in your SKIS login details. Very, very easy. So you need to click on the menu button. It's not in here. It's not in these parameters. Okay, so to put in your SKIS username and password, click on the menu, go down to cataloging, and go down to global cataloging. When you click on global cataloging, okay, there's a lot of information here. Go down to configuration and go to the arrow next to it. Click on the up arrow and Z3950 databases. Click on that, find your SKIS, and it has to read like this. SKIS port number, you need to put your username in there that's unique to you. The priority needs to be 1 because that's the first place you're going to go. Then your server name is got to be that. Your database has got to be that. And then you put in your password. And you say this is the default. You put a tick in there and then you go update. Once you've done that, you are ready to manual catalog and SKIS catalog. However, while you're in the SKIS parameters, why not also tell the system what your default spine label stationery is? That'll become very handy later. So you click on the up arrow and you go to default spine label and you will select your default spine label. Now, if you run any of these, we have a whole bunch of other spine labels. If it's not one of these, you need to tell us. But if it's one of these, just select that and then just go save. That's all you need to do. The advantage of that is because when you do a SKIS catalog, say you catalog 10 books or 30 books or 60 books or whatever, you just catalog them. And then when you hit that button, the print button on the bottom right, it will automatically print all the books that you just cataloged in a particular way, the particular order that you've cataloged them. It'll print the spine label for it. Okay. So now that we've done all the parameters for your items or your catalog records, we are ready to go ahead and catalog. So to catalog, you'll click here, you'll click on catalog and then go to catalog. Okay, that's manual cataloging. Now, when you go to manual cataloging, it'll bring up the catalog screen and you can have a look at the catalog record here. You can go to next record, next record, next record, okay? And so that's how you will go through the system looking at catalog entries, okay? Now, let me just grab this ISBN number. So that's how you do it, okay? You can enter a genre for a book. You can put an additional title. You can put in a subject for the book. Just go ahead and just add it there. You can put in the illustrator of the book. You can go series, notes. If you don't like the order, click on that button and you can drag and drop. You can drag these to whatever position you want, change the order, and then you just go save. And that's all there is to setting up the catalog screen, okay? Now, if you like to see it down the page, just click on the strip button there and you can now enter data this way. Instead of the default, you can say, no, I like the tab way of going through it. Okay, now you can go next record, exit out of here. So you can go next record, next record, next record, next record, go. That way you can duplicate a record. You can say, I want to duplicate a title, or I want to duplicate a copy of this particular one. So when you go into the copy area, okay, it will take the last most current and create a duplicate copy of it. So that's what duplicating a copy is, as opposed to duplicating a title. Okay, and that's how the system would work. So if you want to add a new record, just go new, blank screen, just fill in the blanks, and that's all there is to cataloging. Really simple. However, I'm just going to zap in my ISBN number. Remember, I copied that. So when you put in the ISBN, you can put in the ISBN number, and then you hit that button at the end there, the Wi-Fi button. When you click that button, it will go to SKIS and it will check if that particular record exists. And it says it exists on SKIS and it's imported it. Okay, you look at the additional title, there's no additional title. Look at the genre, there's no genre. Look at the author, oh, Robin's the author. Look at the subjects, oh, that's the subjects. Look at the illustrator, there's no illustrator. The series, no, there's no series. Is there any notes? There's no notes. So if any of this information existed, it will automatically get imported from SKIS. And all you need to do is click on the copy and then just enter the barcode, the copy number, the call number, the availability status, which is available, and then the location, the sublocation, the daily. And that's all there is to it. Okay. Now, if you wanted to go and also enter the cost center, you can put in the cost center, you can put in the supply, you can put in the cost, you can put in the replacement cost, you can do all of that there. Okay. And that's all there is to cataloging a book using SKIS or filling the boxes manually. And that's all there is to it. But if you say, yes, but I've got 30 books, well, why not go into catalog, go into global catalog, and it says these records won't be saved because I didn't save that record, and that's fine. So what you do is you put in the holding information. So let's say, for argument's sake, you've got 30 books, and you can say these books are a media type of whatever, and the security, everyone can borrow it, so it's 0, or it's only for year 12, the first 10 books. They're senior fiction, so you can make it as 12. And you can tell us the location, the sublocation, the loan period, the renewal period, the cost center, and the supplier of the first book, the price of it. And then all you do is you just zap in the ISBN number, and then in here you put in the password, the barcode of the book. Then you enter the next ISBN number, okay, and then in here you'd enter the next barcode of the book, and then you enter the next ISBN number, okay, and then you enter the next barcode. You don't have to wait for the thing to catch up. So basically you can go ISBN barcode, ISBN barcode, ISBN barcode, and if you put in an ISBN number that doesn't exist, this is the result you're gonna get. It's gonna look for that ISBN number you just typed in, okay, and it'll say record not found. So you just pull that book out, stick it in a basket, goes not on SKIS, I'll check for it later. That's the kind of basket you put it in there. You might want to check it later on the day or next week, and then if it keeps appearing not there, then you might want to manually catalog it. Okay, so once you've done all of that, if you want to print spine labels, remember we set the spine label up here, what the default spine label was. So if you want to print spine labels for what you've cataloged, just click print, okay, and the system will say how many blanks to leave if you're reusing a sheet of paper. And I go, I'm leaving 13 blanks because 13 have already been done. So just go generate spine label. So it'll start generating from the 14th position on the thing. And then you can just go print from here. Okay. And that's all there is to SKIS cataloging. Really, really easy and simple. Okay. So we've gone through adding a patron, we've gone through cataloging, we've gone through SKIS cataloging. So what about circulating? Easy. If you want to circulate, just go here, go to circulation, and then circulation. Okay. Circulation is very simple. This is the checkout screen. And basically you enter the patron, everything is done in here, in this particular spot. Okay. That's where you enter the patron barcode, then the item, the next patron barcode, item, next patron barcode. And if the patron barcode doesn't exist, Okay, you can say, oh, well, it doesn't exist. You can create a new patron, but you can go, no, I've got it wrong. It's Smith, okay, or it's SM. That's all because there's a number. It could be SMITH, could be SMITHY. Okay, so you choose the patron that you want. If there are issues, it'll tell you it's got 2 overdues. Yeah, I'm going to override. Okay, and now I can enter the barcode of this particular book. And there it is. And I enter the next barcode of the book. Okay, so let's go back up here. So I've got the 2. What's this? It said that he had 2 overdues. Well, this is overdue. That's why it's in red. This is brown because when I said to him, you can't borrow this book because you can't borrow any more books because you've got an overdue. And he goes, but I returned it. If you are happy to accept that he returned it, you put a tick in the box that he's saying he returned, and then you put claim return. And it'll pop up a little box and you can say, Mike Smith said he returned this book, but I know he didn't. I'm not going to argue with him. I'm going to allow this to pass. And what will happen is it'll keep the book on his name and it'll make it browny color like that, a yellowy brown color. So every time you call him up, it'll remind you that he said he returned high risk and he returned Garfield. But mental maths is just something that he's got. But you can override all the loans. Okay. Now, if he said, oh, I lost Garfield, you can put that tick in there and just go lost, and then it'll remove it from his loan because he's lost it. If he says, oh, can you give me a list of that book because I'll take it home? Or you can say, how about I send this over to mom and she can chase it for you? So what you can do is you can say, choose my overdue items and run the report. That's what that button is for. Run that report, and what it'll do is it'll bring up his overdues, and you can say, I'm going to print it or I'm going to email it. So just click on email and you'll put in the subject, hi Mrs. Jones, can you please chase this up for your child? And then specify to put in Mrs. Jones's email address and just go send now. And that's all there is to sending an email, instead of printing it and relying on the child giving that notice to their parent. Okay, and that's all there is to checking out books. If you want to return books, just click on return and just go zap, 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 just zap in all the barcodes of all the books you're returning from that bucket. And someone comes to borrow, click on loans, okay, and let's carry on with your loans. Circulation is as easy as pie. Okay, if you want to do an overdue report or any report, click on menu, click on reports, go to reports, and in here you can go, these are all your different categories of reports created by me. If you alter any of these reports, which you can, and we'd encourage you to play around and do it and change your overdue reports, add columns, delete columns, and so forth and so on, it will take that report, will not destroy it, and it'll put it on the bottom, reports created by me. But we'll just go to overdues, and I want overdues by classification. So I'll choose classification and go open. And which class grade? I want my overdues for my year 12s and my year 11s and my year 10s. So those are the 3 groups I want. And just go generate. Okay, and that's my year 11s overdue. Then my year 12 overdue. And now if I want to print that, I can just go print. If I want to email it, so if it was going to a class teacher, I could just go email, put in the class teacher's email address here, put in the subject, and then instead of going send, this is a homeroom overdues as an example. So why don't I send this to the homeroom teacher? So I put Jack, the homeroom teacher, and I'll say, I want to send this on the starting from the 19th next week, and weekly at 1 o'clock in the morning. And now if I go schedule, that is now going to be scheduled to go to this particular person. Okay, and if I want to delete the schedule, I just go, see how it says its next run is there. If I go delete that, it says, are you sure? And I go, yep, I want to delete it. Okay, so schedule is disabled. So you can schedule your overdue, just do it once and never have to do an overdue by homeroom teacher ever again, because they will automatically get an email of all their overdues. And that's all there is to a beginner's training Okay, the last thing we're going to do, which is probably the first thing we should have done, and that's searching. How does search work? The way search works is whenever anyone gets onto the system with the URL, they don't need to log in. So this is the screen they'll get, and this video here or this book or whatever resources here was the most current item that was added to the system. This is the second most current, the third most current. So we go from the most current, and if you scroll down in the middle, it'll load the next page and the next page and the next page in the order of the most current up the top. And if you scroll down long enough, you'll get to the very first book that was ever added to the collection. So we are constantly promoting your OPAC to all your students. They can search by just going in here and just putting a search term in here, and it'll bring up all the books based on that. If they click on that, it'll bring up the resources. Then they go, dreams fiction. They click on that and it'll bring up all the material on that. Now I can click on this one and I can go, that author, have you got anything from Michael Lawrence? Click on that, and nope, that's the only one item. Click on fantasy. Okay, here's all the material on that. Okay, they can say, no, I just want to do a subject search, and the subject I want to search on is cat. Okay, and that'll do a subject search. That'll only bring up the books with cat. I can say, what about the title cat? And I can do a search. That's all the books with the title cat. What about the series cat? So I can click on that, and if there's any series cat, it will come up. Oh, you haven't got any series cat. What about an author cat? So I can click on author cat. Okay, and so it says no book. Oh, there's one book that has cat in the author. Okay, so if we have a look, there it is, Cat Clark. Okay, and if you want to be a lot more sophisticated than just doing these fundamental searches, because I want to do ranges and I want to do whole sorts of range of other stuff, click on the advanced and play around. You will be amazed what you can do in here. If someone says to you, can you send me all the books on the subject cat? So why don't you go in here and say subject equal to cat and do a search? Okay, once you have done a search, click on external link, and it says the link has been copied. Now what that link does, it does this. It will give you a link, so you can open up your email, and because it was copied to the clipboard, you can just paste that link. It's a dirty great big link. You don't need to concern yourself with it, and you can just put it in an email and say, hi parent Smith, here's a link of all our cat's resources. And when they click on the link, whether they click on it today, tomorrow, or next year, whenever they click on the link, it is always going to bring up all the resources based on the search that you did as at this instant in time. It's always current, always up to date. Okay, so that's how you can distribute your result sets. You can also build lists or play around with that. You can look at availability. So what's available on this particular system. So you say this particular book, it'll show you what's on loan, what's available. Okay, so if I say, what's on loan or what's on reserve, so it will give you all the information there. Okay, including the available, where it's stored, and so forth and so on. Okay, or you can just click information. If the book features on Google, it'll tell you a little G. If the author features on Google, it'll come up with a G against the author. Just click on that and it'll take you to the author's website. If the book featured on Google, it'll come up with the Google preview. So you can go ahead and click on that and then go and look at the preview of the book on Google, and you'll find it over there. Okay, and that's all automatic. The covers are all automatic. What we've done is with SmartSuite, there's very little mundane things that you have to do to keep the library flowing and current. Your attitude is build the resource and just circulate it. You don't even have to run overdue reports. You can set it up so it's automatic and it goes to the appropriate student or the appropriate teacher or the appropriate parent whenever the book comes up overdue. Okay, we want you to be the actual library manager, where your job should be doing research and building the collection rather than all the mundane stuff that computers can do, and do it very well and do it regularly. That's why we call it SmartSuite. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to present this training session.